Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the GW Basketball Insiders podcast. I'm Liam Merku alongside David Korn. And David, it's been a little bit since we did an episode. GW's
Mhm.
played 4 games, 3 games in the MTE and 1 game against Army in West Point. They went 1-2 in the MTE in the Cayman Islands, beat Middle Tennessee, and lost to McNeese and Murray State. And then, as I mentioned, they went to West Point and beat Army by 14 points. So, 1-2, probably a little disappointing, not what we were hoping for in the MTE. David, just why don't we start off with just your general thoughts on where we stand and what your thoughts have been on the last, 10 days, 2 weeks of GW basketball.
For anyone listening, I wouldn't be shocked if you maybe haven't caught all of these games, considering 3 of them were on Flow Hoops and one of them was at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday. So kind of a weird. This is also a good reminder for everyone to cancel your Flow Hoops monthly
Sure.
subscriptions.
Sure.
Pause this, make sure you don't get charged again, and cancel that right now. So anyone who's listening to this, you have no excuse to be stuck with any extra subscriptions to Flow Hoops. So there you go. But my big takeaways from these 4 games are that I think the idea of an at-large, we're going to get into this more, but while it was fun for a bit, I think it was a little unrealistic going in that GW was some sort of at-large favorite. It was always going to be a very uphill battle playing in the A10. There was almost no margin for error in non-conference play, which again we knew. But the big takeaway I have from these 4 games is that I think there are some pretty legitimate concerns, I should say, about the defense, especially I think the perimeter defense. And we'll get into this a bit more, but the big thing is I think GW's played 3 good teams so far in the non-conference federal. South Florida, McNeese, and Murray State. And against all of them, South Florida, they gave up 95 points. McNeese, they gave up 92 points. Murray State, they gave up 96 points. So I think they've been doing a good job sort of hacking the net, and that's shown with GW having a great net in the first release of theirs. Liam, where did they end up exactly in the net?
In the first release, they were 47.
Yeah, and so that was a bit higher than I think a lot of people expected, and is probably not an accurate representation of where they are right now relative to the rest of the NCAA. But you have to credit Caputo and his staff for doing a good job, and again, keeping these guys in, rolling up the scores, doing what they need to do. But my big takeaway is defense against good teams, because I think the teams that they've really struggled defensively against, South Florida, McNeese, Murray State, I think South Florida would be a top 4 A10 team if they were in the A10. And I
Yeah.
think McNeese and Murray State are probably top half. So
Yeah.
these are teams you'll be seeing very who have similar maybe offensive ceilings. You'll be seeing in conference play a lot. And so they really need to figure it out, because you cannot be giving up 90 points every game.
Yeah, absolutely. South Florida, just thinking about it, they're good. Their record does not really show they're good. They actually have a pretty tough schedule. They have not, like, the only teams they've beaten really are, the best win they have is against Western Kentucky. They've lost to GW, Oklahoma State, VCU, and Colorado State, and they still have to play Utah State and Alabama. And you kind of hope they would win one, hopefully more of those games, and they just haven't, which is kind of
No.
tough for GW. But they're a good team, and I don't know. I don't think the American is other than Memphis, and North Texas has a new coach this year. Like, the Americans kind of probably there for the taking for them. They're talented.
I think
So
Tulsa's okay.
oh yeah, that's right. Tulsa being good at basketball. Sure, man.
Yeah,
Um,
I may be wrong, but I think they beat Rhode
no,
Island.
they're good. They're good. Yeah, they're 86 in Ken Palm. They beat Rhode Island. Their only loss is a 1 point loss in Manhattan to Kansas State. So, anyway, um, yeah, I'm with you on some of the worries about the defense. As was pointed out by our friend Abe Rothstein today, GW has on Ken Palm the best offense in the A10 and the third worst defense.
Yeah.
You got to figure that out before A10 play. You're not going to be able to do what this team is capable of doing if they're going to have the third worst defense. You said you didn't like the perimeter defense. I think the interior defense has been a little suspect with Rafael Castro off the floor. And Rafael Castro was off the floor a lot more in the first two games than he has been.
Well, I'm not really taking the Paytok Machar explosion too
Yeah.
seriously.
Can I
I
can I
think
read
that
my Paytok Machar stat? I don't know if you saw this in the notes.
I did, but I will let you take credit for it.
Okay. I did the math on my
That's
little
what I'm
sticky
saying.
note.
That's why I
Yeah.
would not dare step on your
Right.
toes and
Um
and
so Paytok Machar, which is a sick name, by the way, had 15 points and 14 rebounds in 26 minutes against GW. By all accounts, probably his best performance as a D1 college basketball player.
probably as a basketball player.
Right. Um, he in non GW Division One games against other Division One teams, not named GW. He this season he is averaging 3.6 points, 3.4 rebounds, and 16.2 minutes per game. So like he was pretty much only good against GW, which is really frustrating. Maybe if they were able to shut him down, it
Well,
would be a different story against McNeese. But
so the whole thing about him, right, is the only reason he was really playing was because McNeese's regular big had a visa issue, right? You were on
right,
top of this.
yeah. I actually saw this on the message board, and then I watched the McNeese coach's press conference, and he just very much mentioned it in passing. But yeah, Cameroonian big guy who, I mean, I don't know exactly what the deal is, but I would imagine that the problem was not getting into the Cayman Islands. I would imagine that the problem was probably coming back to the U.S. It's neither here nor there, but he was there
Well,
starting.
yeah, well, visa issues, just another aside, are a real thing with these MTEs. I remember 2 years ago,
Yeah,
um, there was a worry that Babatunde Akingbola stretch that they couldn't get him to the Bahamas. And I remember there was a situation, I don't know if this was reported at the time, but there was a situation where he was missing practices leading up to it because he was spending all this sort of free time at these embassies and consulates to try and work it out. And he was able to go and it was fine. But, especially right now with visas changing all the time and all these education stuff getting, like, this is a real thing that programs are having to deal with.
yeah, the unintended or maybe intended consequences of the Trump administration.
I
Anyway,
mean, the timing of Marco Rubio, Florida alum, messing with the South Sudan visas just as Florida was getting set to maybe play Duke's Common Malua. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. Um, so let's see. What in terms of general thoughts, this team is missing so many layups. Like,
Yeah.
have you noticed this? And it like especially seems like they get fouled as they're going up for a shot, and it like I mean I don't have the time or the energy to go through and like figure out what their percentage is on those. It just seems like they're not making, especially any of these and ones, but they're missing layups in general too, which is really frustrating to watch.
Yeah. And I just have a tough time sort of pinpointing something I exactly am finding wrong with the past few games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
they're kind of
but
just like
watching the
finding
Army game, right?
a little bit.
Yeah, Army shot really good from three, way better than they had, I think, the rest any other game they've been in, and that was what kept them in the game to start. GW sort of pulled away at the end, but I mean, a few of them were maybe a little more open than you would have hoped for. But I don't hate a lot of those shots that GW was giving up against
Yeah,
Army. Like some
they
of their bench guys were making these circus layups, crazy
right.
shots. I think there is a bit of luck involved with that. Like I wouldn't take that too seriously. I would like to raise one point. I don't know how what this means or anything, but I think this is relevant to bring up. I had someone reply to one of my posts with the last name Dinkins, appeared to be a relative of Trey Dinkins, uh, complaining that he felt that uh, Mr. Dinkins felt that GW's quick substitutions and sort of deep bench were not allowing players to get into a rhythm.
Yeah.
And this was in response, I believe, after the Murray State loss.
No, I think
And
it's especially
shortly
after a lot.
after
Yeah.
that was tweeted, it was deleted.
Yeah.
So, but it was said on my account, so I feel like it's okay to talk about that.
Well, and it's not I mean, I don't
No,
think it's an
that's
outrageous, conclusion to draw. It's tough to
no.
find rhythm when the
But
players are coming
it's
out of the game.
interesting because I don't think scoring is this team's problem at all. And
No, not at all. This team's good at scoring.
and with my small basketball brain, I would assume that very small, very
Hey,
small.
say when. Say when. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean that's about it. The highest level of basketball I've ever played was GW intramurals. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I never played anything past second grade. So maybe we should have said this on the opening first episode ever of our podcast. It's like in case you can't tell, neither of us are any good at basketball.
if you want someone who's very good at basketball, friend of the program, Cameron Mays,
He is very good at basketball.
very good at
We got
basketball.
it. We need to. We're gonna have him on at some point
Yeah,
this season
he has
to talk.
great takes too.
Yeah.
So anyway, what I'm saying is my small basketball brain would assume that that would be more of an impact on offense because I feel like offense is more of a rhythm sort of part of the game, whereas defense is sort of more just energy effort. I obviously that's a simplified view of all of this, but it would make sense to me more that because the common phrase is like cold shooter off the bench and how it's really tough for guys off the bench maybe who especially maybe haven't played consistently to be able to just get right in there and shoot the ball. That's what I'm thinking. So I don't necessarily think that's what's wrong because I think that if that was truly an issue, that would be showing itself more on the offensive end than the defensive end. So I still think the issue lies something in maybe it's because there aren't consistent enough sort of 5-man groups on the floor. So there are maybe some defensive miscommunications because people are not used to necessarily playing with everybody who they're on the floor with. I don't know. I mean, do you get what I'm saying? I'm kind of
Yeah.
rambling.
No, I get what you're saying. It's just one of these tough. And like I said, I think it's a reasonable opinion to have that they're subbing so much that it's tough to find a rhythm or anything like that. But I agree that the defense is more the problem, and I don't know. Maybe there's in some way maybe the defense that's rhythm dependent as well. I also wonder if maybe there are things they're doing because they're trying to. I mean, they're not playing at a breakneck speed. They're not playing at as fast as William and Mary is going to play this weekend,
Mhm.
but they're playing fast. This is a team that wants to get out in transition. Army actually did a really good job of not allowing them to do that. GW only had 6 fast break points, which is their fewest amount this season against Army.
Mhm.
But I wonder if maybe that has somewhat of an impact on the defense in some way. But on the other hand, it's well, the reason they're subbing so much is because they have so much depth, and you have seen it wear down teams. They get later in the game, and these other teams are tired, and they're
Yeah,
jacking
the
up
thing
these
is,
bad.
I would have thought that would have helped in the MTE setting, 3 games
Yeah,
in 3 days, and it
agreed.
didn't.
I think all those other teams were also pretty deep and also wanted to run. So um, I don't know. It's interesting. Do we want to do our So we kind of had a fun.
No, so before we do
Yeah.
that, you just what you're talking about sort of raised a good point, and I think we should explore this. Um, there's sort of a lot of people view conference play as a way for, or non-conference play as a way for coaches to sort of figure out their rotations ahead of sort of conference play. And so with GW, they've been playing this deep bench. I'm not saying this will happen, but if GW were to tighten up the rotation and really make it more like 7 or 8 guys getting the bulk of the minutes, Liam, who would you want those guys to be? Let's say
Ooh.
you have to cut 2 guys from the rotation right now.
Um. I don't know if they will do this, but I think.
I agree. I'm not saying they will, but just as a
Yeah.
thought exercise, as a potential solution to maybe some of these issues,
I
what do you
think
think the best move would be?
Ty Bevins would play less.
I think that's a cop out.
Uh, okay. Fair enough. I guess.
No, we can include
I'll,
Ty Bev because I think that's the easy choice.
yeah, and
And it's not that he's been bad.
No, I think he's a good player. And he's also been
Yeah.
injured a little bit, which is tough.
Yeah.
Like maybe Aaron Gurin or Benjamin. Like this team has a bunch of really good players. Like
Yeah, that's the tough thing. I think I would probably lean Aaron Gurin as well.
yeah, but
Um,
he's like there's been games where he's been. I think he does a lot of the, maybe some of the stuff that doesn't really show up on the box score.
I
Um,
yeah, I exactly, and what I think is sort of making this tough, and this is a great problem for GW to have, but I think Garrett Johnson has been able to shoulder more than I think they were expecting right now.
yeah, yeah, I think that's. I mean, he played 29 minutes in 2 out of the 3 MTEs, which is
Yeah,
like
and when
way
he's
more.
on the floor, he's moving, he's been going for putbacks and is getting some good dunks in. Great layup package, defending well, effort on defense. I think they've gotten more out of him minutes and sort of energy wise than they expected. And
Yeah,
so I think that is, again, a great problem to have. I think he showed that he is GW's best player over these past 4 games. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think Bevins, yes, because you need hunger to spell Castro. Marshall and Boo Boo Benjamin have both been great. And I think for this team to reach its ceiling, you have both of them playing heavy minutes and using their effort and length on the defensive side. And I'm sort of okay with them being less of a factor on offense, but just having their length and athleticism, I think, is a big asset.
yeah, but they can both like hit a three. They're not like
Yeah,
complete
no, they're not
liability.
zeros, exactly. So I think when you tighten it up, I feel like it's got to be Aaron Gurin. What he's done on offense, that 3-point shot, I feel hasn't been great. He's shooting
Yeah,
27 about 27% from three. He's shooting well from the field. He's shooting good from the field, getting to the hoop well, but he turns the ball over a good amount. I feel like his skill set on defense is a bit redundant if you're comfortable giving Christian Jones a lot of minutes, and I think you should because I think he's been very impressive.
yeah.
So
He's he's been
I
good.
would
He's as
say
long as he's limiting the turnovers, he's a player you have to have on the court.
I think I agree with you, and I would say Bevins and Aaron Gurn are the ones who sort of lose their minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's a way to really get this information, but have you seen Garrett Johnson, Boo Boo Benjamin, and Tyrone Marshall on the floor together?
There definitely is a way to get that information. I mean, that's something that the team would know. I don't know. I'm bad at. I've never been good at like conceptualizing the players that are on the floor at the same
So
time.
I'm
But it's
pretty
an
sure
interesting. I get what you're. I know. I see what you're getting at. It's
I
interesting.
think they've done that, but having one of them be the center for brief periods.
Yeah, yeah. It would be probably
But
Marshall, right?
I would love to see that lineup where you have either Christian Jones or Trey Dinkins, and then those three. Probably Dinkins. I think that would be fun. You have
Yeah.
Trey Dinkins running around on the perimeter on offense, doing some crazy.
I mean, he is fucking electric. He was like hitting shots from he was just like I think the announcer even said it. He was flat footed. Like he
Yeah.
barely even jumped and just like threw the shot up over the Army player and just swished it. I was
Also,
like,
by the way,
defend that.
I just want to say you brought up broadcasters. I crap on Flow Hoops. I liked the Flow Hoops broadcasters.
Yeah, although there's some GW fans that have some issues with what's his face Settles,
He
because
referenced that on the call. I thought that was funny.
yeah he referenced it. He referenced it
Settle,
on.
I believe, during the '93 season, had a really good game against GW in the round of 64 in the NCAA tournament,
Took a
and
cheap
Iowa.
shot against someone. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure he took a cheap shot against someone.
Yeah, when Iowa beat GW. So I think that was funny, and so that type of stuff was cool. But I thought they actually did a very
Yeah,
good job,
they were.
and it's not their fault that Flow Hoops is the worst.
Yeah, we need to like at a certain point you need to leverage the you need to say that you're not gonna take part in flow hoops tournaments, which I know is kind of tough, especially when you're getting iced out of a lot of MTEs. But Like
I mean, I
float.
think the Caymans, the one GW is in. I think that was probably the best MTE that wasn't on a real network, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's probably right.
I mean, I don't know, but I was there was a lot of bad basketball available on ESPN Plus and
That's
on the
true.
ESPN family of networks over.
Well, listen to this. Loyola Chicago in there. I think they were in the
Oh
Acrisure.
yeah, I heard the three bid league guys talk about this. They got flexed out of TV
They got flexed out of TV, not onto Flow Sports,
for
not onto the
Champions
app.
League, right?
Yeah, for Newcastle versus Marseille in the Champions League,
Oh
and it
yeah,
was just like 2 out of the 3 games you just couldn't watch. There was just no way to watch. It's like,
and you know what? Speaking of no TV, during the GW Middle Tennessee power outages, shout out Middle Tennessee Radio for staying online.
dude, that guy
Uh,
was awesome. That guy
he
was
was a
I
good
like actually
broadcaster.
he was a very good broadcaster, and I saw him on the sidelines, and I was like, this is like a 300-pound man. This is the first time he's left the state of Tennessee in the last 15 years.
And I'm really glad that he got his trip to the Caymans because you know that dude was enjoying a marg
Oh
on the
my
beach
God, are you
after.
kidding me? I mean, if like every single time they
I
announce
bet
these,
he was. I bet he was like smoking a cigar with the coach after the game.
that's yeah. I mean, every time they announce these MTEs, I immediately go on my phone and I'm like, so what would it cost me to get there? And the Cayman Islands, unfortunately, was out of my price range, and also, you know, leaving around Thanksgiving is
Liam, you think that would have been a tough sell to the fam and the girlfriend?
yeah,
Uh, a Cayman
yes.
Islands
It
Thanksgiving.
was a tough enough sell when I picked my
Sorry,
girlfriend.
babe. Got to do Cayman Islands with the boys for GW Middle Tennessee.
Right. Well, it was a tough enough sell watching. I drove in the rain to pick up my girlfriend from 30th Street Station, came back and was like, I need to watch the GW game. And she was like, really? And I was like, yes. Yeah, like I do. And she was like, okay. So she was watching Dancing with the Stars. It was all good. But
So some nice parallel play.
yeah. um, do you want to do the panic meter?
Yeah, I do. Should I go first? Because I think I have a little more
Yeah.
of.
Although, wait, give me a second. I want to explain why we're doing it out of the number we are. We're doing it out of 50 because Saturday is the 50th anniversary of the Charles E. Smith Center. So
Yeah.
I'll give you the floor. What's your number out of 50? 1 is not at all panicked. 50 is absolutely freaking the hell out.
So I have two separate numbers that I chose for this. My panic meter, I know, right? I write my own rules. For the sorry, Matt Brooks. For the panic meter for the at-large bid, I'm at 45. Those two losses, not blowing out Army, pretty bad. I forget. I'm sorry I don't remember off the top of my head, but I had someone tweet at me asking what I thought GW's at large chances were after the Murray State loss, and I believe I said, "quote on life support."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think the panic meter is 45. I think you either need a close to perfect non-conference play and or a Florida win to get you there.
Yeah. You got to go like what, 15? You think 15-3 would do it in conference play?
I think it's less about the numbers and more about the no bad losses.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So I think now that Mason is looking pretty good, I think you can afford a loss to them. I think you could afford a loss to Dayton. I think you could afford losses to VCU. I think you could afford losses to St. Louis and maybe St. Bonaventure. I think those will all be solidly Q2, maybe at home Q3s.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Panic meter for the at large, 45. But overall, panic meter, pretty low. I'd say around a 20.
Yeah.
I think the at large itself, while it was fun to think about, I think was a always going to be difficult and always going to be a long shot. And this team is still really fun. This team is still very talented. And there is still a lot to play for. And I think when they get more comfortable, when these rotations begin to become a little more clear, I think this team could really thrive in a tournament setting, not like what we saw in the MTE, but what we could see in the Atlantic 10 tournament. And
Yeah.
so I am still very optimistic about the rest of the season, and I do not think anyone should be pressing panic on the season as a whole. while these games were disappointing, they were not damning on the season, and this is still a good team. And looking in the near future, Florida is reeling. And I
I don't know. They
think
beat Duke last night. That was a good win. That was a really good win.
they didn't beat Duke.
You're kidding.
No, Cam Boozer had a crazy game, and Duke won on a late three. Did you turn it off a few seconds too early?
No, I was watching the whole game. David, I think I'm going stupid. Okay, you know what it was? They were down by a lot and then they made it close. And I
Yeah,
guess that impressed me. They also jumped like 15, 20 spots in the net this morning. So,
just because old Duke is really good.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, no, Duke is, I was surprised they kept it that close. I bet on Duke to cover, I think it was like an eight points. So, anyway,
for my if
not,
anyone
not a
who's
good
been
look for me.
following me on Twitter, I have a new gig writing about the NBA draft for the Wizards SB Nation site, Bullets Forever. Thank you for that, Matt Maderno. But I just did a big profile on Cam Boozer, and he played amazing against Florida. And
He's really fucking good.
so I wasn't that high on him going into the year, just because I thought his ceiling was sort of capped as a 6'9", 250 post player.
Yeah.
But he's been so much more than that, and I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up going number one.
Yeah. All right. My number for the panic out of 50 is 18. I did not do two numbers. I, yeah. So, I mean, like, it's still a super young season. I think we definitely got excited because of the absolute curb stompings that they gave to some of these teams before Thanksgiving. But
Mhm.
it's like beating UMBC by 40 is not really what's going to decide whether this team makes it to the NCAA tournament or, makes a run in the Atlantic 10 tournament or, wherever they end up at the end of the season. That's just not really going to have much bearing on it. This is pretty much where I expected them to be. It would have been really nice if they didn't lose that game to Murray State. And
Yeah.
that's the game that over these last, in the MTE and even the Army game, which like they won, like it wasn't great. That was a weird thing. We can talk about that in a little bit, but that was a very strange game for many reasons. Um, like I kind of expected them to be there, but the Murray State game was the one that slipped away. And when they lost that, I was like, oh geez, like you can't be letting up 96 points to Murray State. Like they're
And
good,
that
but they're
last
not.
play, oh my god,
Yeah, it was terrible. The defense was awful, and I don't know what they were doing.
it had to
Um,
have been miscommunication. I
I
can't.
guess, but it's like you can't. Like they neither like they didn't full court press, but they didn't have everyone back to
Yeah.
to play defense and pack the lane. It
So
was like,
that's what
guys,
I'm thinking. So this is what I mean, where I think the issue on defense could be that these guys just there are too many different groupings that are on the floor together.
yeah,
And because you would think in that situation, Tyrone Marshall would have been on the floor, but he was out. So there was definitely someone else in there. I know there was some foul trouble, so it was probably not the group they were hoping for, and not the group that has maybe practiced these late game full court defenses together. So
right.
that's what's tough. That's what's tough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so I want to talk about the defense a little bit because in the Army game, which, well,
Mhm.
first of all, the reason I say the Army game was so weird is because they went up there, they were supposed to, they got there on Sunday night for a Tuesday game. And they spent the whole day on Monday and they did the tour. And that was a big reason why they did it because they wanted to tour West Point, which is great. But you're playing like a bottom 30 team in the country. Love the troops, kumbaya, whatever. But like from a scheduling perspective, you know, not the greatest.
Mhm.
Um, so, and then they play this game at 11 a.m. because they're supposed to be students or they're supposed to be like elementary schoolers that are coming to this game for an education day, whatever. And then it snows. So none of these kids go to school. So they don't have the field trip. And there's like, it was like 375 people in the arena. It's like just
Yeah.
whoever was around, which is like in one way awesome and in another way really fucking stupid. But like, I'm kind of here for it. And it did sort of seem like Army was just hitting some of these circus shots, but I don't know. I felt like they had a lot of open shots. They had too many open shots, and it was a few. I mean, like they weren't all just like fully blown coverages, but it's like a GW player comes over to double, and um, and Army just like pretty effortlessly kind of like swoops it around him, open-ish three, and they're just like GW is just kind of a half step late on a lot of these rotations or whatever. It's like they're being aggressive. They want to double and they want to trap, but they're kind of half-assing being aggressive. So I don't know. I just wasn't a
Yeah.
huge fan of that. So
So yeah, we're at about 30 minutes. We said before this we'd keep it tight at 30. Before we wrap up, I just want to shout out one thing. We also mentioned this a little earlier, but game day injury reports. I really want to shout this out because
yeah,
this is
do it.
something
Yeah.
as someone who is not around the program on a day-to-day basis anymore, something I think is a great benefit to fans. And a beautiful example of this was against Army with Tyrone Marshall, where because it was at Army on a Tuesday, there was no media there. And so there was no one to find out if Tyrone Marshall was going to play or what the injury was or anything. And while there is no injury designations beyond out or questionable, like it doesn't say what the injury is, a timeline or any of that. I just think knowing this ahead of time and in an official capacity beyond just an SID telling the media that's there, and if there is media there, I think is a great service to fans watching from afar.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it was because of for gambling reasons and stuff like that. But like, I'll absolutely take it. Um, so yeah, I love it. That's starting in conference play, right?
Yes. So now that the women's conference play has started up, we are seeing our first injury reports.
Yeah. The Dayton for also real quick,
Yeah.
GW women's Gabby Reynolds is playing awesome. Coach
Mhm.
G, we're recording this like minutes after the game ended. Coach G, first A10 win. It was an ugly game. I stepped out to eat dinner for a little bit, but like 34 combined turnovers, 35% combined field goal percentage. It was an ugly game. GW shut down Dayton's best scorer. As I said, I just tweeted this out. There's going to be growing pains.
Mhm.
But this team is showing promise. So it's nice to see that. And Gabby Reynolds has 65 points in her last 3 games. They took Miami to overtime.
I know that was another great game.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of that. I kind of tuned out of the whole basketball after GW lost to Murray State. I was like, I'm just gonna hang out. So William and Mary up next. William and Mary's good. William and Mary might win. William and Mary plays fast. They beat Old Dominion by 13. They were up a bunch against Duquesne on Tuesday. They have the shortest offensive possession length of anyone in the country. It's going to be a track meet. I would expect a lot of points. I've got all these stats here about what William & Mary's good at and what they're not. They have a pretty deep team too, so it should be an interesting matchup. It's kind of a team that plays pretty similar to GW, so should be a good one. 50th anniversary. They're retiring Yinka Dare's jersey. Is that right?
I believe so. Yeah.
There you go. That's people who don't know that they do know that I'm obsessed with GW basketball. Whenever I mention GW basketball to them, they reference Ian Kadare. So,
Yeah, I think he's probably. Yeah, I mean, I've talked to Ian Kadare with some college basketball sickos before, and they're always psyched that someone my age is able to pull that out. So,
yeah. All right. Well, any final thoughts?
Don't panic. These losses suck, but it's a long season. There's still a lot to be excited about. This team is still very, very, very good. So that's sort of my parting message.
Yeah. No, they're gonna figure it out. And yeah, they've got a little bit until this Florida game will be interesting. We'll have something before that next week. So thank you
I
for
actually do
listening.
have one more thing. I have one more thing.
Yeah.
George Mason has played the most cupcake of cupcake schedules, and I do not buy their start.
Yeah. There's also them playing Virginia Tech is really interesting because GW was close to playing Virginia Tech and turned it down because they didn't get enough money from Virginia Tech. So that fascinates me a little bit. So
Virginia Tech, VCU beat them, but they have one of my favorite players in the country to watch, Neoklis Avdalis, the freshman from Greece, who I think will play his way into the lottery. So Mason will have their hands full with him.
Love it. Yeah, that'll be, I guess, their first real test.
Yeah.
But all right.